Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down the side.
It's the 49er Faithful UK show. Week 7 is upon us, and the 5-1 Niners head to Minnesota to face the 2-4 Vikings. The Niners will want to bounce back after last week's disappointing loss, and a prime-time Monday night showdown against Kirk Cousins might be just what we need. I'm Gareth Ellis, and the gang's all here. It's Lee Gowland.
Hey guys, Gareth scared me there. He looked really serious when he started the show.
Paul Hope.
What's up, Fairfield?
And Najee Karar.
Hello, everyone.
So good to see you, gents. Particularly the gents at the top of the screen there. Well, it's good to see you too, Najee. I haven't caught up with the watch party. I trust you enjoyed yourself, and your voices, are they going to hold out throughout all of tonight's pod?
I don't mind it's going to hold out just for the history section. Never mind the whole pod.
Says the guys that done an hour and a half podcast yesterday about it.
Yeah, but if you had listened to it, my voice didn't hold out.
No, I know I didn't. That's true. I did listen to it. It was good. It was a good recap. Definitely made me a little jealous. Just a little bit jealous. Not too much.
Well, I'm often quiet, Gareth, so as you can tell by my voice, I did the live on Tuesday, had to carry Nick because his voice was gone, and I had to carry El Presidente last night. So just shy and quiet, Mr. Hope here. I'll be all right, buddy. But yes, we had an all right time. Gareth. Good. I don't think you missed much.
No, it didn't look like we'd missed much at all, did we, Najee?
No, not that much. Just
doing the pod on Monday was
daily.
far better.
Yeah, exactly.
If any of us go missing, don't go off our Facebook profiles because there's quite a lot of the same profile pictures.
Why do you all look like Joe Staley? That's weird. Paul did a new Walker, didn't even get a shout on. Honestly, that was pretty cool that he showed up.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I think you've both met Ollie Stretchfield, haven't you?
Yes.
I mean, Joe even made Ollie look small.
Yeah, well, that's, if you ever met any player, especially linemen, God, they're big people.
They are big.
They're really big people. I always remember when I was in Los Angeles for New Year's Eve, a long time ago now. There was Stanford. No, there was some kind of college. There was a Rose Bowl, so there was two college teams playing, obviously. And they were in ESPN Cafe in Disney World, and the whole team was there. And I remember they all came out at the same time. And we were in a queue with Annalise, and it was just like, oh my God, these people are barely 20 years old, and they are gigantic. It's scary, and they're not even like in the NFL and have started proper working out. It's insane how big these people are. It's pretty cool.
So, shall we? Let's start with the injury report, the banged up bulletin. That's me. Unless you've been hiding underneath a rock, you'll be well aware that both CMC and Debo left the game last week and did not return. And Trent Williams played most of the game through an ankle injury. The good news is all three seem to have avoided some significant injuries. They're all listed as questionable for this game, considered day-to-day, and obviously the extra day's rest from Monday Night Football will undoubtedly help. But it is unclear how much and whether all three will play. Also injury news, Sammy Womack and Danny Gray will be eligible to return from IR, but it is unclear if they will be. And finally, the injury report's getting a bit bigger these weeks. Big play Dre Greenlaw missed the Browns game and is still listed as questionable, though I do believe people are fairly hopeful that he will be able to play on Monday. Over to the Vikings side, obviously the big news is star receiver Justin Jefferson is now on IR and will definitely miss the game. He's joined on IR by linebacker Marcus Davenport, and the Vikings' backup QB, our old mate Nick Mullins. Also listed as questionable are two guys I must admit I've never heard of. Cornerback Caleb Evans and a guard Ezra Cleveland. No idea if that's going to have any real impact on the Vikings at all.
It will do if Ezra Cleveland's missing. He's a really good offensive guard.
Good.
There you go. Especially with the name and the last game. We don't want now.
No.
Yeah.
Moving on.
But talking about our injuries, how do you think we should manage this little rush of injuries to key players? Najri, you're usually our resident doctor.
That's true. I don't know why, because my 0 year of medical school is definitely showing sometimes. I guess I played the game, so I've been hurt the same way.
That
I
makes
don't
you
know.
qualified.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's one of those where you want to stack win as soon as possible to be able to rest players later down the line. Our bye week is in soon, but not that soon. A couple of weeks. Yeah. So it's always difficult, isn't it? I think ultimately these guys are professionals and they're football players. If they can play, they should play. That's my mantra. If I can be on the field, I will be on the field. There's only there's 3 ways you can be as a player: non-injured, hurt, and injured. And no one is non-injured. That doesn't exist. Everybody's hurt, and injured are people that can't play. So if you're hurt, you're on the field. That's how it goes, and that's a saying I have when we play with people. You're going to play hurt. It's part of the game, unfortunately, but it's also kind of cool. I don't know. But yeah, I let's put them in. Just put 30 points in the first half and then sit them out, and then the job done. That's what you do.
I'd agree. Concise there. Any disagreement with Naji? No. Stunned silence. Well, we defer to your wisdom and injury history, Naji.
Yeah, I will say the McCaffrey injury sounds exactly what I did this year. I kind of bruised the intercostal/rib. Felt like I broke my rib, but it turned out it wasn't. It was really painful. I had to get out of the game, but then it dissipated a little bit as I was resting on the sideline. Went back in for a couple of plays, and then couldn't breathe again. Pretty much straight away as soon as I got hit. And it sounds like that is pain tolerance thing. So it goes from severe to manageable, and then back to severe and back to manageable. They have better doctors than we have, and I'm sure it'll be all right. But yeah, I hope it's that. I hope it doesn't. He hasn't broken anything, because that's a little longer to heal.
I think we're pretty sure it's not a break, isn't it? So they've had plenty of time to be scanned and X-rayed and checked. So let's hope that extra day's rest on Sunday will bring them out for the game. So while we haven't been division rivals with the Vikings, we do have a little bit of history with them, particularly when it comes to some playoff games. What have you got for us in History Corner this week, Lee?
So first of all, I would say technically you're wrong. It all depends on whether or not you see it as a conference or a division. It was actually called a conference, but we were part of the Western Conference before the merger back in 1970. And
before my time, Lee. So
before my time too.
Are you
I just
sure
know
about
my
that?
history.
I think some women from the metro.
I'll take a seat, shall I? Okay, so the 49ers Vikings. The 49ers currently lead the series 25-23 with one tie. And for the very observant of you, you'll have worked out that total comes to 49 games. It's a sign. Our tie was on the 11th of September 1966. It was a 2020 tie. We've met 6 times in the divisional round. 49ers winning 5 of those. The only defeat came on the 9th of January 1988, and that was a 36-24 Vikings victory. And what made that, what I call it, special or peculiar? The Niners were by far the favoured team out of the two of them. The Vikings were actually lucky to get through the divisional round. They came up against the Saints in the wild card, and everybody expected the Saints to beat them, but the Vikings turned the form on its head and actually beat the Saints, and then marched into Candlestick and beat us as well. So that was a bit of a shocker, that. But I mean, we lead the series 5-1 in the playoffs. There's never ever been a shutout between the two teams. There's been a couple of scores where they've only scored 3, but no shutout. The 49ers own the only 50 burger of the series. That came on the 8th of December 1984. The previous year, they were only 2 points short, with a 48-17 victory on the 8th of September 1985. Actually, I've got that date wrong. That should have been 83. The 49ers' biggest losing streak was between 63 and 65, where they lost 5 in a row. The Niners managed a 4-game winning streak twice since 1961. Those periods were 61 to 64 while playing in the Western Conference, and once in the Super Bowl era during the 88 to 90 seasons. The Vikings last won the NFL Championship before the merger and beginning of the Super Bowl era, so that is effectively the NFC Championship. But because it was before the Super Bowl, they called it the NFL Championship, and it stands as a championship in its own right, believe it or not. Prior to 1970, the first 4 Super Bowls were played between the NFL and AFL champions, just in case anybody was wondering about that. So in 1969, the Vikings were the NFL champions. And I think that year it was the Kansas City Chiefs who was AFL champions. Super Bowl 11 against the Raiders was watched by the 3rd highest attendance at 103,438 in the Rose Bowl. That was the Vikings and Raiders, and the biggest attendance ever in the Super Bowl was Super Bowl 14 between the Steelers and Rams, and that was 103,985, also in the Rose Bowl. Players who've played for both teams. So
Ray Armstrong.
I was just about to say, you'd be surprised to find out Ray Armstrong is not one of those players.
I don't believe it.
No way. He's got to have been on the practice squad.
I checked the list 3 times just to make sure. So, I mean, the most famous of them is Roger Craig, Randy Moss, and Hugh McElhenney. Obviously, Randy Moss came to us for 1 season during 2012 when we got the Super Bowl against the Ravens. He didn't particularly set the world on fire, but he was the type of threat that kept defenses honest. I think he ended up with just under 400 yards receiving. Roger Craig, he spent 2 seasons at the Vikings. He never looked right in purple. It was just wrong for me. Sandwiched in between his time with the 49ers and the Vikings, he spent 1 year at the Raiders as well. Another running back who we all know most recently, you could call him Mr. Pyrex, and that is Jerick McKinnon. So he looked quite good when he was drafted and went over to the Vikings, and we kind of thought once we got him, it was going to be a really good signing. Unfortunately, he was plagued by injuries his first 2 seasons. His 3rd season, he came in and didn't particularly set anybody alight with what he did, and then left in kind of under a cloud, we'll say, and went to the Chiefs and won a Super Bowl ring. And kind of showed what Kyle Shanahan saw in him originally to bring him into the 49ers. He just never ever showed it at the 49ers. The only other one of note, and I think it's more personal to me, I'm going to say Alex Boone. So Alex Boone, I think, is a really good look story at the 49ers because he spent so long on the practice squad. I'm sure it was 4 seasons and he was getting to the point where that was it. They wouldn't bring him back. But he made it into the team. And we got a good few years out of him as offensive guard, and it was a little bit of a shame when he did leave in free agency because he was a decent offensive guard, and like I said, he put the effort in to make the team. He was never too despondent when he didn't make the roster, and he ended up on the practice squad all the time. Of all the games between the 49ers and the Vikings, I think there's two particular players that would stand out for both sets of fans. So I'll go with the 49ers, and if you don't know this player, you've been living under a rock. And this was Steve Young's legendary touchdown run. That was against the Vikings on the 30th of October 1988. He ran for 49 yards, stumbling into the end zone for the score. The commentary of that is amazing. It's really good to listen to, and it's the type of thing that gets you excited. It's almost a little bit like the pick at the stick with Bowman running back. The commentators get really excited, but it was like a build-up to a crescendo right at the very end. And it's well worth watching again on YouTube. There's plenty of videos out there. Now the Vikings player, no Vikings fan would ever thank me for bringing up this. But Gary Anderson missed his first kick in 2 years in the NFC Championship game. And that kick would have effectively sealed a Super Bowl appearance for the Vikings team, who were at the time the best team in the NFL. They were tipped to win it all. They were that good. Randy Moss was in his prime. They just couldn't stop this team from scoring. Unfortunately, Gary Anderson had set a NFL record, not missing a single regular season kick. He'd gone through the playoffs. He'd gone through the previous season, not missing a single kick. And then when it mattered most, he went wide left. The kick was so renowned. It's well documented on the sitcom How I Met Your Mother, because Marshall is a Vikings fan, and there's a few different episodes where he says, "Don't mention the kick." That is History Corner done with for this week. Actually, the most important thing to remember is it's the Gowland Bowl.
It's the Gowland.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because my older brother is a Vikings fan.
Is he feeling confident?
I think he is after last week's win.
What?
I think he is.
Okay. I mean,
Interesting.
it's what
Obviously,
fans do, right?
it's in Minnesota. They've come off the back of a win that he wasn't expecting. I think it's going to be a
Come
lot
on, they
for us,
played
to be
the
honest.
Bears.
Yeah, I
They
know.
did play the Bears
Yeah, but
Without
it's a divisional
Justin
game.
Fields.
Divisional
without
game.
Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, a thorough dip into History Corner as ever. Thank you very much, Lee. Should we go over to the scouts? We'll start with Paul. Paul's been looking at the Vikings defense.
Yeah, so for once,
Share the
Gareth.
screen, as per usual.
Yep, Gareth, Nadji will put the depth chart for those people watching. For those people listening, we do have to keep pointing that out. Brett, I'm not the one with a Vikings friend this week. Lee Gowland has the connection. I nearly reached out to Lee's brother, but I decided not to. I'll let him listen to this and see whether I've done a good job. So it's fair to say, chaps, that the Vikings looks like a much improved defence this year through the 6 games compared to last year's unit, which, believe it or not, gave up the second most yards through the air. We're facing yet another new defensive coordinator. There seems to be a theme when I'm doing this. So Brian Flores, people may know Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots. So he has been brought in because the Vikings wanted a more aggressive scheme this year. So when I've gone and done my deep dive, Gareth, Flores has utilised a supercharged version of the scheme he's used to much success in the past. And when I say by that, this year alone, he has sent at least one extra pass rusher more frequently than any NFL team this season. And the stats confirm it. 63% of pass plays, they send an extra rusher, which is more than twice the current league average, which is 26.7%. So think New York Giants, think that's the game plan that I believe the Vikings are going to come into Monday Night Football with. They're going to try and put Brock under pressure. Now, for those of you listening that might be worried, I wouldn't be. It hasn't disrupted the other quarterbacks often enough when I've gone and got the stats. The Vikings, believe it or not, despite all that blitzing, have the 6th lowest pressure rate at 32%. And this largely is due to the opposing QBs getting the ball out of the hands quickly, which is what we've seen Brock do. So I'm smiling because as long as it's not raining, I think Brock will be all right on Monday. The opposing QBs have used on average 2.2 seconds before the throw against the Vikings blitz, which is the shortest time in the NFL this season. Before I go on, does that surprise you chaps to find that out? That opposing QBs are just negating the pass rush by getting the ball out quickly? Or is that just standard for the NFL before I move on?
No, I think they've got a good D-line, so it's not surprising.
So I did go into the rankings, Nadji. So we like the stats on this show. So points against per game, the Vikings are conceding 22.5, which is ranked 21st in the NFL at the moment. They're giving up 331.17 yards, 15th at the moment. 218.83 passing yards, which comes out at 17th. And the rushing yards, they're giving up 112, which is 18th overall. So given what we've just faced, the number 1 defence in the league, apparently, I know we are still smarting off that loss. We were only a field goal away from winning that. So I am very bullish that Kyle Shanahan will be rubbing his hands together, going up against this defence. In an effort to maximise the effectiveness of his scheme, as I said to you chaps off air, I normally say at this point, Gareth, to play 4-3, a 3-4. I honestly don't know what the Vikings play. It's that imbalanced when you watch some of the Vikings fans that I was checking out on Twitter, have actually questioned the makeup of this roster, because of the 10 defensive players with the highest percentage of snaps this year, 5 are defensive backs, 4 are linebackers, and only 1 is a defensive lineman. And if you go and watch the game against the Eagles, they try to stuff a run play with only 1 lineman on the field, and it's just madness when you think what the Eagles can do in the run game. Now, defensive tackle, that's the one that tends to stay on the field so much, is Harrison Phillips. The Vikings list him at £307 on their website. He's played approximately 80% of snaps, and as I've just said, at times, he's often the only defensive lineman on the field. But Flores has come out and defended his approach and said, basically, I don't care what position you play. It's about having the best 11 on the field. And he does rotate his defence, as in, he's not too keen on the positions. If he thinks that you're going to do a job, he puts you out there. Now, we mentioned the Cleveland Browns. I forgot about this. Dalvin Tomlinson was at the Vikings last year, and it was a bit of a shock to Vikings fans that they let him walk. He signed a 4-year, £57 million deal with the Cleveland Browns. And to me, that sent a clear assessment that Flores decided that, unlike us with Nick Bosa or with Drake Jackson, Randy Gregory, he just believes that his strength in the blitz is coming from further back. And that shows on the stat sheet, which I'm getting to. The linebacker, I might get his first name wrong because it's spelt like Daniela, but Hunter, number 99, is leading the way for this team at the moment with 8 sacks. And when I've been doing my deep dive, I've found out that beside him, he's playing alongside, there's another linebacker on there. I'm trying to think of his name. You might be able to help me out here, chaps. There's the Hicks. 2 of them. Hicks, that's the one. He's the green dot wearer. Yeah. So he's like their equivalent of Fred Warner. Now, what's interesting about Flores' scheme, he allows Hicks to change the players on the field, which is unheard of under the Flores. But Hicks has been playing that well. He started every game for the Vikings since arriving in 2022. And he hasn't missed a game since he came into the league. Now, I'm not saying Najee, he's Fred Warner, but we like our PFF on this show. And PFF has Hicks as the most pass rush snaps of any inside linebacker this season at 66. And he does rank in the top 10 of coverage grades at the moment. He's also second in the league for assisted tackles. And he's had 2 fumble returns for 42 yards. Now, any other week, Gareth, I'd be feeling a little bit nervous. But we've got Fred Warner. We've got the best linebacker in football. But alongside Hunter, the pair of them are putting up a good kind of relationship in there. Now, I was shocked to find, and given that I'm 43, at 35 years of age, safety Harrison Smith is still the leader of this defence. He's still been making some splash plays. So far, he's had 14 tackles, 3 sacks, a forced fumble that was returned for a touchdown. So we're going to have a lot of fun watching this Flores defence because they just blitz from all over, and it's just unpredictable. It's not the standard that you would see under normal defensive coordinators. As I said, I've tried to keep this brief because I didn't want to ramble on for ages. Have you got any thoughts on what I've said or any questions before I hand over to Najee on the offense?
Well, I'm going to pick out 2 players then. It's 2 players that obviously every year, every January, I am head deep in the PFF mock draft simulator. That is definitely well documented. And there's 2 players on there that are particularly that are particularly of interest to me, and that's Brian Asamoah and Ivan Pace, because I remember it is because I remember going through doing the mock drafts, thinking I wouldn't mind having either of those players based off where they're going to land in the mock draft. I know it's not that accurate, but it's accurate enough to give you an idea of where they're going to go. Najee, help me out. What's this CF before the 23? Is that undrafted?
Yeah, it might be actually.
I think that might be undrafted. That.
Well,
because Andre Carter was undrafted, wasn't he?
Yeah, so. Maybe.
So you mentioned Asamoah. I was practicing that. He does lead the team in the pass rush win rate. So he might not be blitzing as much, but when he does, he leads the team on successes. And that's why I was a little bit surprised with this, Lee. I think what Flores does well with this offense, he confuses the offensive line because they don't know which defenders are coming from the blitz. And it's a tactic that they used quite well against the Bears. they did kind of stuff up Justin Fields before he went. But a few Vikings fans are bullish, like you said. The one against the Bears, so they're coming up against the 49ers. But there's a few other names there.
Sorry, question. Is Asamoah related to Nnamdi Asamoah, the Raiders?
The cornerback?
Yeah. Do you know? Because that would be interesting. And would make him a little bit more scary, because Nnamdi was pretty good.
I wouldn't have thought so, because Nnamdi was called Asamoah III, which suggests he was called after his father.
Yeah.
So Brian.
So that wouldn't be the second, would be the fourth.
Exactly.
Would make sense. Unless cool. Okay.
Yeah. So the only other thing I was going to say, and this is well truly down a rabbit hole, but we'll go back to the old history corner there. So the right defensive end, Dean Lowry, isn't that what you called Will Smith's character on Bad Boys?
I have no idea, potentially.
No, Dean Lowry.
I'm loving the movie connection.
So the reason I've brought that up is because during that game in 1988 where the Vikings beat us, and it was completely against the run of play, they were unfavoured. Deadpool was their quarterback. Wade Wilson was the quarterback of the Vikings. Deadpool.
Yeah.
And I just saw Dean Lowry and I thought, I'm sure that's another movie character. So they've had Deadpool and Dean Lowry. I might be wrong about that one though.
I'm sure someone will
back from the rabbit hole
later.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments if you know. I want to touch on Jordan Hicks and Byron Murphy, because they've been Arizona players have played really well against us, and especially Jordan Hicks. He's been very good, especially against us before he moved to the Vikings. So there's that connection. He knows us. He's played against us a few times, and I think he's a good player. So definitely gonna watch for that. But Pace is a rookie. I think Kyle can take advantage of that. I have no idea who DJ Woonham is, to be honest. Don't follow them enough. But I do think that's probably their weakest unit, the linebacker. Because if Jordan Hicks is blitzing 60% of the time or whatever, then they're only leaving two behind to cover, I'm not too worried.
Sometimes you don't even leave two to cover, Najee. Sometimes he plays with three safeties. And I think that's what a lot of the analysts have said. Flores hasn't gone up against Kyle Shanahan. And like you said, the linebackers, that's where Shanahan likes to cause that confusion, doesn't he? But
I definitely think McCaffrey's availability is going to potentially make or break our offense here, because if we do have McCaffrey, it makes it so much easier to negate the pass rush. It's a lot harder without him, and if it comes from every angle, it's a lot harder. I mean, Purdy is still very much a rookie in terms of game time. He's processing things fast, but there's only Flores is very experienced and might be able to rattle him. I wouldn't sleep too much on his defense, especially at home. Especially the Vikings fans are quite loud and quite proud and support their team pretty well, and it can get loud in a stadium and they can get behind them. I wouldn't sleep too much on it, but also I think it could go our way pretty fast if things go well this time around.
They are ranked 28th out of 32 at the moment, Gareth, and not trying to be too bullish, Najee. You're right in what you're saying.
No, I think definitely they were so bad last year that I think it's an uphill battle for them, but they are getting better, and I think that's all they're looking for right now. And one or two things go your way in a game, and you get a little bit giddy about it, and that's a defense that could start playing really well, really fast. So I'm going to say one thing is mistakes are going to have to be to a minimum. Otherwise, Harrison Smith can take advantage of can have a pick six in no time, and Daniel Hunter has been a very good pass rusher for quite a long time now. So that's what I mean. That's the kind of defense. If they're bad and you give them hope, it's very dangerous, and I can see them play well if they're given the chance. So we're going to have to play better than we did against Cleveland.
Definitely. I think the defense could cause us some problems. But what about the offense? Najee, what have you got for us? I think everyone knows Kirk Cousins. And Justin Jefferson is out. But other than that, this is going to be a voyage of discovery for me, personally.
Well, I think, obviously, Kirk Cousins is the big name on this. But we have the luxury of having Kyle, knowing him inside out. And I think that's just so good for us because we know what he does well, we know what he doesn't do well. And we can take advantage of that. And I'm sure Steelwicks and Kyle will have lengthy discussions about how to attack him and how to make him the most uncomfortable possible. Because it's been a while we haven't mentioned it, but Kirk Cousins is Kyle Shanahan's favorite QB, and he wants him, and he wants to play with him. Not anymore. It's Brock. We all know it's Brock, and Kirk Cousins is a long dream, but he's the reason he got drafted into Washington back in the day. So there is that connection. Now that that's been said, I think the biggest thing, obviously, apart from the Jefferson injury, is the fact that they got rid of Dalvin Cook. And for whatever reason, I tend to trust teams that don't resign players like that. They must have seen or they know something that other teams don't know. But I think Alexander Mattison and Cam Akers, who played pretty well against us not that long ago. I think it was, week 2? What did he play? I can't remember now. But he knows us too, is what I'm saying. Could definitely hurt us a little bit. And they can rely on the run. I think they're pretty balanced. So they could go run heavy. They could go pass heavy. They've got some very good weapons in here as well. You guys, what do you guys think of Mattison Akers? Ty Chandler, I think used to play, I can't remember, I'm going to butcher this. Got drafted out of North Carolina, I believe. Very good last year. Anyway, good rookie, good college player. Are you guys scared of our running back? Not our running back. We're scared of ours, obviously. Theirs, and they've got a proper fullback as well, which is quite rare.
No, I think because of what happened on Sunday night, the defense are going to come out incredibly fired up.
Yeah. And we got the greatest trade player of all time, Randy Gregory. So I think we should be okay.
I don't think he's been as good, the replacement running back Najee, as a lot of people thought. Dalvin Cook was someone you go to in your fantasy leagues, and then he got released. But I don't think they've ran the ball as well. Maybe that's because they had Justin Jefferson, and now he's not there. like Gareth, I don't know a lot about the Vikings. I knew Kirk Cousins, I knew Justin Jefferson, because Jefferson's arguably the best receiver in the league. And I'm going to be controversial. I'm gutted he's not playing. I would have liked to have seen him go up against who we know is the best receiver, which is Brandon Ayuk. But I had to kind of be knocked by his Najee.
No, that's true. What about you, Gareth? Any of those names scare you?
It's going to be difficult to find some pass catchers amongst that group.
I think it's at the tight end. I think TJ Hawkinson is probably their best weapon. He got paid a lot of money last year. Rightfully so, maybe. I don't know. Tight ends are a bit of a commodity. If you find a good one, you might as well sign him. I think that's the story here. Definitely that. I mean, Jordan Addison was very good at USC. But again, a rookie. Am I worried about him? Not necessarily. I think he could definitely have, a few catches and 100 yards. But just a little bit like last year, I think we've let people do that quite a bit, and without being too impactful. I remember Cooper Kupp having so many catches last year, and not much of an impact. He scored a touchdown, but ultimately you lose, 25-10. It doesn't really matter how much catches you have. And then KJ Osborne is a bit of a speedster, isn't it? Short guy on the outside who can definitely take the top off if you let him. But I agree. I think the patch catching, especially with Jefferson out, is definitely nowhere near as good as they could have been. But let's face it, Fred is much better than anyone. So Hawkinson doesn't really scare me all that much. Any Jordan Addison, Lee, do you have any thoughts, considering he's a Pac-12 receiver?
No, not really. I mean, as a whole, the Vikings offense has some weapons that could cause us problems. I don't see Jordan Addison as being one of those that is particularly going to cause us a problem. And you've pointed out that the one that I'm worried about, and that's Hawkinson, because he is a very good tight end. But then again, if that's the only target that Kirk Cousins is going to, we're going to soon shut that down.
Yeah.
I think the biggest miss for them is Justin Jefferson, because he was their go-to guy pretty much all game long, every single game. But I'm still a little bit worried about this offense. I still think they can put points on us. I don't think it's. I don't think it's definitely. We're definitely not going to hold them down to 10 points. That's for sure. I like their O-line. I think when they're healthy, their O-line is a good O-line, which is why Kirk Cousins has largely been so successful over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
They've done well at adding the pieces they did. I've mentioned Ezra Cleveland. Apparently, he might be one of the guys that gets traded away.
Oh.
And I think if we were to make any sort of trade, I wouldn't mind it to be Ezra Cleveland.
Is it left guard, though? We don't need a left guard. But yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
No, that was my next point I was getting to. We've been playing mostly lines that have been kind of made this year or very recently with recent addition. This one's been together for quite some time now. They've had that whole line for a while, and these guys know each other pretty well, and Kirk Cousins, directs them pretty well too. They're a very good unit. They're not the best by far, but I think experience of playing together as a unit when you're in O-line trumps a lot of deficiencies that you can have, even though you're some better player might not gel as well on other teams. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think if they miss him, though, you always have that, having a new guy in that needs to adapt and learn how everything runs, and it's not quite as sleek as it should be. So there's definitely something we can take advantage of, and I think maybe Mr. Javon Hargrave can have a game and take advantage of that. Christian Darrisaw was very, very good though, so it's going to be a tough battle for Jackson. Maybe we've asked him to have a bit of a revival and show us what he showed us in game one. I think this O-line is a good test for our D-line, definitely.
Well, I think just off the limited snaps that Randy Gregory had on Sunday night, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more of Randy Gregory opposite Bosa, because he looked quick, he looked elusive, and he looked as though he's the type of player that, given a proper run in the side, he's going to get us sacks. Yeah,
it seems to think like Clelin Ferrell has been kind of downgraded to more of a rush stopper, a run stopper, and Randy Gregory would come in on pass downs. And Clelin Ferrell has been playing quite well, I think. It just doesn't have quite the same skill set that we need when we need to get to the QB. And seeing Randy Gregory do what he did last week after basically no practice whatsoever, and then having to get on a plane back to where you came from almost, and play that well, I think that's definitely a good sign. I wouldn't expect too much either, though. It could just be completely silent. It doesn't mean that the trade would go back down to a C-. It's definitely a B- so far. That's all I've got. Unless you guys have got questions about a particular player or scheme.
No, I think that's pretty good. I must admit, I haven't seen really or heard too much about him. But Jordan Addison, if I got that right, he was a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. One thing, the Vikings always seem to have good receivers. They're a bit like the Steelers. They always seem to have been able to draft, and they've always seemed to got one good receiver, or if not two. So it could be interesting. Obviously, with Jefferson out, he might have more of a chance to shine.
He had a very, very, very good year last year. But he had Kelly Williams as a quarterback, so whether it was him or not. But yeah, no, he was good at USC for sure.
You'd think that, Gareth, but I've just Googled it there. Hawkinson's tied for the league lead in targets and receptions for tight ends. And I know Lee's just said he's a bit worried. But we got Fred Warner.
Yeah.
And you look at the stats there. Mattison, who was tasked with the workload, 2.8 yards per carry. They've averaged less than 50 yards. Good. Now, the last 2 weeks, they've played the Chargers, they've played the Panthers, and they've averaged over 130 yards and more than 5 yards a carry. But the Chargers are quite soft. And the Panthers are the Panthers. You go to the other 4 games, which I looked at. In the NFL, if your run game's not working very well, you need your pass game to step up. And if they've only got Hawkinson, but I thought you might have mentioned a little bit about number 13, Nikel, because wasn't he a first-round pick as well?
Yeah, Nikhil Harry.
But I mean, at this point, he's been in the league for 5 years now and still hasn't done anything. When he got drafted by the Patriots that long ago.
Patriots. I
Yeah,
can't remember who it was.
I don't think he's that good. Otherwise, he's not even starting. You know, I don't think he's.
No, it's just a name. When you're looking
right.
through the
Right,
list, it's a bit like Cam Akers. My friend who was a Rams fan told me they were releasing him, and then he texted me another couple hours later and was like, "The Vikings have traded for him. We were getting rid of him."
Yeah.
And Akers hasn't done anything at the Vikings, so
no.
I think after being punched in the mouth last week, even if CMC can't play,
Really
I just think this is going to be the game. I think we're going to shine in prime time. And we all talk about superstitions, the curse of the watch party. Kirk Cousins doesn't tend to play very well in the bright lights.
True.
And we've all seen that Drake meme, Nadji, where Kyle Shanahan's now turned away from Kirk. He's got Brock. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nadji. Good thorough look over the offense there.
Thank
Any final thoughts on where we think the game is going to be won and lost?
In the trenches.
I must admit, I'm expecting a bit of a bounce back game from Purdy. Not that he has a lot to bounce back from, but I think there's going to be a tidy game for him. And I also think our D line is going to get after Cousins. I think Shanahan, in particular, is going to know what Kirk does and doesn't like, and is going to set up some confusion for him, make him hold on to the ball, and get some time for our guys to get the pass rush home. And on top of having no run game, I think that the plan is to stifle them out. And hopefully, injuries aside, even if those guys aren't practicing, that allows Shanahan to work with some of those other players. We may see a bit more Ronnie Bell, of course, Ray McLeod, getting those first team reps with the other players who I imagine are not practicing, even if they are going to be ready for the game. And hopefully we'll be in a little bit better game plan and better position than having to make those adjustments during the game. If we expect those players to be out or limited, there might be a bigger role for someone else. That's my thoughts. Any others on where the game's going to be won or lost?
No, I think that's pretty well said. I agree.
Good. There we go.
Yeah.
Should just done that instead of the 5-minute podcast.
Go on, Lee's going to say something.
No, I completely agree with what you've all just said there.
There we go. Should we go on the score predictions then? The business end of the podcast.
That's the thing. We have to redeem ourselves. Very poor last week. Very, very poor.
Well, while you think about it, the Niners are 6.5 point favourites. Does that make sense? Yeah, 6.5 point favourites.
6.5 point.
Yeah, that's big for a road team, and the over/under is 44.
So I need to have a look at the formulas because I think Nadji should have had 2 points on Sunday.
Why?
Because she got 14.
17-19. We lost.
He should have points deducted.
So you're within 5?
No, within 3.
You have to be within 3.
It's a field goal.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. No, I was close.
I'll let you off.
No, close enough.
Yeah,
well, nice
get no points.
I'll take the 2 points if you want.
I'll try to help.
It's very generous.
Gareth, he's so competitive.
Yeah.
Don't try and help him. He's trying to add points for me and you using our catchphrases on other shows, Lee. So don't be helping him. The rules are set, Nadji. The rules are set.
So many times.
It's fantastic.
So who's top? Who's going first?
So I
Must be
think
Lee or Paul.
Paul went first last time.
He did. So I think
Lee, you're first.
Yeah. Okay then. So I'm going to go with 49ers win. It'll be a bounce back win, and I think it's going to be 34-17.
Well. Nice. Paul.
Well, Gareth, the over/under is 44, so the Niners win this one 31-13. Purdy bounces back and gets another 30. So slightly close to Lee's, but there's going to be a bit of texting back and forth if one of our scores gets close. So 31-13, Niners win for me, chaps.
That's really nice. And I have to agree with you. And again, after watching the first half of the Browns game back, we should have won that game by 30 points. I think if just 2 things go well our way, we destroy them and then they stop playing and we lose the game big. We're going to win this one in prime time. 42-14. Bounce back. That's a bounce back.
Dallas Cowboy vibes.
Yes, that's what we're going to go for.
I think I've been forced to slightly revise mine, given that it was 1 point different from Paul's prediction. I did have 30-13, so I'm just to switch it out. I'm going to go for 34-13.
So same as Lee, 13. All right, cool. It's all very close. It's all very close. We all get within 3 points of each other.
Any boldies? I've got one. We're going to sack Kirk Cousins 6 times.
Oh, that would be dirty. Yeah, I actually got my strip sack fumble touchdown last week. Wrong person, I'll admit it, but I did predict it. That was yeah. And the refs took it away from me. It was Bosa instead of Hargrave, but this week Hofanga pick 6, Tashan Gibson pick 6, Fred Warner pick.
Ooh, 3 picks.
3 picks.
So I'm going to go with pretty much the same one as I went last week. Because of what I saw from Randy Gregory, I'm expecting him to get more snaps this week. So I'm going to go with the Randy Gregory 3-sack game.
Nice. Is he going to become your player watch? Are you going to swap because you like him? Clearly, you have a crush.
No, so I mean, I picked Colton McKivitz.
I know,
and I think it's more interesting to see how his season progresses.
It is interesting.
I was going to go with Fred Warner, but I did have a couple stashed, so I'll move away from that. Jake Moody bounces back, Gareth. That is perfect. Some might say that's not bold, but given the talk I've seen on social media, that is bold.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Jordan Mason show. Jordan Mason's going to rush in for 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, and he's also going to get 3 receptions in the air. So it's the Jordan Mason game. That's where I'm going with this one, Najee. Thought you'd like it.
I cannot.
And I did have Cousins for 3 interceptions, but I'd rather have Najee's.
It's pretty good. All right, nice. Very nice.
Wonderful stuff. Do we have any other announcements now that the watch party
is over? It's a red game. Red game.
It is. It's Tuesday, 1:05, 1:15 a.m.
It's cool night, this one. Not cool. Not cool.
I do have one. So if you watched the show last night, El Presidente put a call to arms. He wants us all to vote for him to be the International Fan of the Year.
Yep.
Me and Lee have been trying to find out how to do that today. So there's good news, Lee, is I found out that we've got until, I think, all applications must be submitted by the 31st of December, and we need to liaise with the 49ers because I don't know whether they have some say, because the link I found is like the other one, Lee, where you kind of nominate yourself and you fill in the questionnaire. So I don't know if you found a different one.
No, so that's the only one I found, but I do recall I clicked on a link a couple of weeks ago when it first came out back into September, and it actually had a different screen that said, who would you like to nominate? You didn't have to put a date of birth in or anything like that, but I can no longer find that link. I have no idea.
And then what gets
that.
confusing is if you go through the NFL website, you end up on the NFL Fan of the Year, not the International Fan of the Year. But what I'm thinking is we can still start. Okay. Yeah, there's 2 different things, Nanji. So what we can do is we can start the social media campaign and get behind Lee. Give this man a seat. Sorry, wrong campaign. Martin Hughes will get that reference. Had to be done.
That's never leaving you. You know that. You should have not told anyone.
He didn't.
Martin Hughes was
did.
there.
No,
Martin
I know.
Hughes was
that's
there.
true.
I mean,
as
soon as it happened, I knew that's it, because Hughesy was stood next to us. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
But all jokes aside, if we can find out how to nominate Lee,
we'll let you know.
I'm sure we'll let you all know, because it would be pretty epic if we can get Mr. Gowland recognised.
Definitely.
National Fan of
and
the Year.
I think for the people that may be thinking, he's already president, why should I do that? I think it's like a representation of the whole group and what Lee's been able to achieve. And what the group is mainly because of him himself. And it's just a way of saying thank you back kind of thing. Just do it. Takes 2 seconds when we find out how to do it. Or the PSA, go on Facebook and tell us about the watch party. And try and follow the exact template because it makes it easier to compile. That's why we do it. And also, if you are using any of Wayne's picture, just tag him in. He's taking time out of his life, not working, but working to take all these amazing pictures. He doesn't have to do that. He does it at the kindness of his heart, or repay it back and tag him in and say thank you, because he's a legend.
Totally.
And on that note, Najee, it was epic to see the 49ers use his group photo.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the 49ers social media release from the watch party, I've got to say, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as what it was and to be out as quickly as what it was.
Good.
Like you said, Najee, it's a representation of all the group.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Sunday night was. Everybody's efforts, everybody represents. But we're going to be sharing the photos of Joe. We're going to be sharing the photos that the 49ers released. And Wayne, I just want to say a big thank you once again.
Yeah, thanks,
like what Najee said.
Yeah.
Absolute legend.
Totally.
And
True legend.
less than a month to the gold mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's getting closer and closer. It's going to be fun.
Wonderful. I think that's it. Thanks for joining me, lads. Good to have us all back together. And thanks to everyone that listens to and watches the show. We will be back a little later next week as it is Monday Night Football. So we'll have to see when we can record. But until then, enjoy your weekend and go Niners.
Go Niners.
Go Niners.
Bang, bang, down again.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down.